Hey guys, welcome back to Ripe Stories. In this video, a ridiculous entitled Karen vandalized an ambulance that supposedly trespassed her property even though they were just saving my life. Let's dive right into the video. And the first story is titled, Project Manager said, if it is a problem, the pressure test will catch it. Alright then, let's find out. So back when I was a junior engineer, I was working with a piping contractor supporting a gas plant project that was in the final stretch before commissioning. We were under intense pressure to hit deadlines and everyone was feeling the heat. One of my responsibilities was reviewing materials before installation, in other words, basic quality control to make sure we were not about to install something that would bite us later. Well, then the pipes arrived. These were large diameter, high pressure pipes for a critical gas line, but the moment I saw them, I knew that something was off. The mill markings did not match the material certificates, and some of the weld seams looked rough. When we took a closer look, we found surface defects and laminations at the bevel, classic signs of poor quality steel from a dodgy mill. I flagged it immediately. My lead engineer took one look and agreed these pipes were not fit for purpose. We raised it with the project manager, expecting him to do the obvious thing, that is to reject the badge and order replacements from an approved supplier. However, this PM was not like most project managers. He was not an engineer, had a Bachelor of Commerce and had landed the job thanks to his uncle, a senior executive. He had zero technical knowledge and did not care to learn. To him, just another job to push through quickly to up his bonus, and rejecting the pipes would cause delays, something that he was desperate to avoid since it would probably affect his bonus. His response? The supplier says they meet spec, so they meet spec. Just install them and move on. I pushed back, explaining that if these pipes failed under pressure, we were looking at a major incident. He waved me off. Just get it done. If it's a problem, the pressure test will catch it. Alright mate, let's see how that goes. The pipes were installed as is and we moved on to the pressure testing, so I stood back and watched. As we ramped up the pressure, the pipe's weld seam split wide open and ruptured the pipe. The force of the failure sent a shockwave through the system and a few of the pipe supports even bent. The pressure test failed, spectacularly so. Now, instead of a minor delay to replace the pipes before installation, we had a catastrophic failure that shut down work for weeks. The entire line had to be cut out, rewelded and retested, the supplier was blacklisted and an internal investigation was launched into how the pipes had been approved in the first place. We were also made by the client to bear the cost of the rework. So, as expected, the PM tried to shift the blame, but my lead engineer simply pulled up the email chain where we had clearly raised the defect concerns. Management did not take long to connect the dots. In the end, the PM was taken off the project immediately and was sacked a month later following initial investigation results, and even his uncle could not save him. Never saw him again after that, and last I heard, he decided to pursue a career outside of the industry. And yeah guys, if you have ever worked with such awful people, I would love to hear your story in the comments. And now let's move on to the title story, which is titled, Karen vandalized an ambulance that trespassed her property. I noticed a lot more stories on here involving Karens popping up in rural areas. I think that they've always kinda been here, but were just considered trashy. Either way, I had one living next door to me that actually wanted me dead based on what she did. The way that our land works is that her house and property are off the main road while mine is kind of behind hers. In order to get to mine, you have to take the road and loop around. It's a major pain and takes about 4 minutes or so. I've spoken to her in the past about doing what some other people have, which was build a small road at the edge of her property so that I could just cut through to get to mine. She got mad at that idea, thinking I was trying to steal her land or something like that. I was annoyed but respected that she had the right to say no, since, well, it was her property. The only time that her property will get cut through is for emergencies. I've even noticed a mailman trying to use it a couple times, but Karen reported him and that was the end of it. There is not even grass or anything where I wanted to build the road, it's just a dirt path basically. It did not make a difference to Karen, she wanted everybody to go around the long way no matter what. Police once had to get to the other side and cut through using the dirt road. I heard Karen complaining about it one day and throwing such a fit because of it. She was claiming that they didn't have the right to do that and she wished that she was able to get their badge numbers and report them. A classic sign of a Karen if I've ever seen one. My health is not the best and I had spent years telling myself that I needed to eat better, but just never ended up making that change. Around 7 p.m, I was starting to have some serious chest pains, and it was not like anything I felt before. It was like my chest was being squeezed through a press. I called 911 for help and they told me that they would have an ambulance rush over. I was able to unlock my door for them, but when I tried to get back to a chair, I couldn't and ended up just on the floor. The EMTs came fast and I was conscious and able to understand everything going on. They hooked me up to oxygen and checked my vitals. Then asked me a bunch of questions and then said that they recommended I go to the hospital because I could be having a heart attack. I was scared out of my mind and quickly agreed to go. I usually don't like doctors, but I know when things are serious to not brush it off. As they took me outside, I could see them leading me towards the ambulance, which was behind my house instead of in front of it. They clearly had went through Karen's yard to get to me faster, and Karen had noticed. I heard her screaming at the EMT that was outside along with a police officer while they were inside treating me for all of the 5 minutes. Karen had created a huge problem. I tried to ask what was going on, but they were assuring me that everything was fine. I could hear Karen though, and from that I got a pretty good idea of what was going on here. She was screaming that they were not allowed to cut through her property and did not care if it was an emergency. She ran out as soon as they arrived, demanding they move and go around, which they refused. Once she saw me coming out of the house on the stretcher, it seemed to make her even angrier, and she came to try and scream at me, telling me that I told them to do this and yelling that I was an idiot. Luckily, the police removed her from near me. You might be wondering about now in the story why I was outside still and not safely in the ambulance and on the way to the hospital. The answer to that was that they were not able to use the ambulance. After Karen got told they were not gonna move, she thought it would be a great and smart idea to take a giant kitchen knife to one of their tires. We were waiting on a second ambulance to come and I could only lay down and listen to the chaos unfold. The entire time in pain and wanting things to just be quiet, the yelling was too loud and the lights were too bright. All I knew was that she was still fighting with the EMTs and arguing with the police. I think the cop was trying to tell her that in an emergency, an ambulance will take the shortest route even if it's through another property, trying to reason with the crazy woman instead of just arresting her, because I was pretty sure that messing with an ambulance was actually illegal. Another one came and I got loaded up and taken to the hospital. It turned out that I was having a heart attack. At some point in the ride to the hospital, I blacked out and did not come back to until I was in a room and listening to a doctor tell me that they had inserted a stent into my heart. Also letting me know at one point my heart totally stopped and I was lucky to get to the hospital in time. A couple more minutes and I could have died. I felt a lot of things, but one of them was anger towards Karen. She could have caused me to die with the stunt that she pulled. I wanted to speak to an officer about it, but was stuck resting for a while and recovering. A couple of ribs broke from the CPR to restart my heart, and in general, I was in bad shape. Fast forward a couple months later, and I was finally okay to resume normal activities, and I got to speak to the police regarding Karen. I could not give much of a statement for during the night due to my state, but I was able to tell them that the delay almost caused me to die. They said that it would help their case against her. She was being charged with simply vandalizing the ambulance, which is not a charge to sneeze at, but with what I had to say, it was gonna make things a lot worse for her. She was not going down without a fight and wanted to argue that she did not do anything wrong and should not be in trouble. My town is usually quiet, so this was big news, and a lot of people were looking at the prosecutor to make an example of Karen by not taking things easy on her in court. It turns out I was not the only person to make a statement. Others said that they saw her that night and how she acted was horrible. While everybody was waiting for the court case, Karen seemed to just wanna blame me for everything. One day she ran into me and just started screaming that I was ruining her life and I needed to get the charges against her dropped. That I had no right to get her arrested and I was doing this entire thing because I wanted access to her property. I really tried to explain to her that I did not tell the ambulance to go that way, that I was having a heart attack and could have died if they went the longer way around. Also, I wanted to make it clear to her that I did not press charges against her and it was the state charging her, not me. I even tried to play into Karen's more self-centered nature, thinking that maybe it would help her. I told her that if it was not for her property, then I might have died. That she should feel like she helped instead of getting upset about the ambulance. However, it didn't work and she got angry again, yelling that she didn't need me telling her that she was a good person because she already knew it. That she was the only good person around and I should be the one that got in trouble. Then she said something that chilled me a bit to the bone and still rings in my head to this day. Karen, you should have just died instead of calling them. Yeah, she really thought me dying was a better solution to things than the ambulance being on her property. I did not think a single person could be that cruel or horrible to think that a human life was not the most important thing. Well, I just shook my head and walked away. I was trying not to get myself worked up because of my heart. Karen was given a chance to plead guilty, but the prosecutor still wanted her to go to jail, so she refused and wanted the case to move forward. Her side of the events was actually a pretty good story. She could have been some rich writer. In her version of events, the ambulance almost ran her over and also destroyed her lawn, claiming that it was coming right for her house and she was just trying to save her own life when she slashed the tire. Also talking about the fact that the dirt path was not a real road and the ambulance had no right to go on her property in the first place. Being ever so nice to show a map and how the ambulance could have spent a few extra minutes going around. The prosecutor had a ton of evidence against her, police cam footage showing where the ambulance actually was, witnesses saying that she ran outside and started screaming at everybody, including me while I was on a stretcher needing to go into the hospital. Finally, he talked about the delay in care that she caused to me, almost resulting in my death. Asking her directly about that and her showing right in front of the judge that she had no remorse. Not saying that I should have died, but she did say that me needing an ambulance should not have inconvenienced her. Due to the doctor's statements that I barely made it and might not have even had my heart flatline if it wasn't due to the delay that she caused, she was obviously in serious trouble. She was not just in trouble for vandalism, but they were also nailing her with endangering a life. That gave her zero chance at leniency and is currently sitting in a prison cell dealing with her sentence. And yeah guys, if you enjoyed the title story, please don't forget to like the video, because that would help me tremendously. The next one is a fantastic story from r/malicious compliance. It is titled, "You want us to dress in business attire when all other departments get to wear blue jeans?" You got it. So this happened many years ago. I worked for a top US banking institution. In our building, all of the other departments were allowed to wear blue jeans on Fridays. My manager decided that our department had to wear business attire on Fridays. To be clear, we had no customer-facing presence. Also, our department processes check deposits from ATMs, and they came in mesh bags from the armored couriers. They were usually quite filthy and were frequently wet in bad weather. So when our managers told us that we could not wear blue jeans on Fridays like every other department, the entire team was upset. Here is where we cue the malicious compliance. The next Friday, I went to my closet and found the most mismatched outfit I could put together, sticking completely to business attire. We are talking pastel floral print shirt with pants with bold colored stripes. I put it on and proudly walked into the office. My manager just happened to be on vacation that week, so nothing was said about my ridiculously mismatched outfit. Fast forward to the next Friday, once again, I chose the most hideous combination of an outfit that I could put together. Once again, I walked into the office with my head held high, confident in my business attire. Imagine my surprise when I walked in and everyone on my team had on hideous combinations of clothing. As you can imagine, my boss walks in and sees everyone in their various hideous outfits. The look on her face was priceless. All 15 of us in hideous outfits, but all meeting the business attire dress code. She pulled us all into a meeting and told us that our attire was entirely inappropriate for a business environment and that she would have to write each and every one of us up. I asked her to pull out the company handbook and read the definition of what it said as business attire. She read it and it stated something like clean and pressed business attire consisting of slacks, skirts or dresses, and clean pressed shirts or blouses. It went on to say something like no blue jeans, t-shirts ripped or closed with holes, no sleeveless shirts and no athletic or gym shoes. Then I asked her where in the guidelines does it say anything about whether the outfits matched or not. She actually could not find anything and said she would have to contact HR to discuss with them what her options were to write us up. Needless to say, none of us were ever written up. She did however say that we still needed to dress in business attire. Word of course quickly spread to other departments about her forcing us to wear business attire. The next week, 2 departments around us decided that they would also dress up in hideously matched clothing. The managers of those departments quickly got in touch with our manager and put pressure on her as they did not like how their employees were dressing. Our manager called us into a meeting and told us we could wear blue jeans on Fridays going forward. Malicious compliance wins. Sometime later, I will tell you about the sign-in/sign-out board she created. And yeah guys, if you have any funny malicious compliance stories from your workplace, I would love to hear about them. I just really enjoy these stories. The next one is titled Ridiculously Entitled Guest. Again, 20 plus years ago, we had a night where we were overbooked and knew that we had to walk about 12 rooms to another property. This was not typical, but we had a contract come in later for 30 rooms for a 2-week stint, government prepaid, these guests were well behaved, and we were not gonna tell them no because one night we would be oversold. When we were oversold, we noted which guests were only staying for a single night, so we didn't have to worry about moving them back to our hotel the next night. And by the way guys, I forgot to mention, this story is from r/Tales from the Front Desk, which usually has stories about entitled hotel guests which are very entertaining. Either way, there were about 25 of these single night guests checking in, because this was such an egregious oversell, the VP reserved rooms at the super high-end, historic and famous hotel down the road. This way, as these guests came to check in, we could at first just make the offer to them and hopefully we would get all the volunteers rather than have to force people out. Per our company policy too back then, we paid for it in full. So basically, these guests would get a free night, and despite the offer of a free night at a nicer hotel, for which we would provide transportation too, it got to the point that the last 5 we would have to send to the other hotel regardless. Some of the check-ins I understood wanting to stay with us, such as ones that had kids they would rather not see running around a hotel like that. But others just didn't care if they spent the money. The ones that did take the offer jumped on it and were quite happy. Of the last 5, 3 of the guests arrived together and shrugged it off and took the shuttle over. They seemed middling about it, but they got off our airport shuttle, so I think they were more tired than anything else. Then the 4th to arrive, he was a doozy, dressed in a tailored 3-piece suit, metal luggage, visually presented to impress. We explained that we were out of rooms for the night, but that since his reservation was guaranteed, we would be footing the bill to move him to the high-end famous hotel down the road. Now, this hotel down the road is not part of a chain, it has been independent its entirety, over 100 years old now, 700 plus rooms, private golf course, hosts head of state type events. It's very posh, very if you have money you know type of place. Mr. 3-piece suit, I'm not gonna be shoved into some no-name hotel. Me, sir, this is a very exclusive hotel and much nicer than Mr. 3-piece suit interrupting me. I only stay at internationally recognized brands, not one-off no-name hotels that no one has heard of. Me, 3 out of the last 4 sitting presidents have stayed here. Mr. 3-piece suit, did you not hear me? I only stay at the best of the best. At this point, the night manager is walking up to the front, introduces himself and asks if there's a problem. Mr. 3-piece suit says he is staying here and will not be sent off to a no-name hotel. Night manager looks at me and I shrug. Night manager, sir, the X-Hotel is a world-class facility. Mr. 3-piece suit interrupts him again very loudly and turning red. Night manager takes no crap but politely smiles and tells him, fine, he will put him in an internationally recognized brand, and walks him over to guest services so our driver can take him across the highway to an internationally recognized brand that has a good reputation but is definitely a step down from us. And then the last guest to come in, a local couple who was having grandma babysit so they could have a night free, were absolutely giddy about getting to stay or free at the historic hotel down the road. But Mr. 3-piece suit? Who knows? My guess is he was trying to look the part of a rich executive, but did not have enough information to play the part. If you're wondering which internationally recognized brand he stayed in, it was Motel 6, one of the infamous, or famous, however you take it, budget hotel chains in the United States. I hope he enjoyed his luxurious stay. And the next one is titled, Don't Park in Disabled Spots. I have a disabled parking placard and a few weeks ago I went to Target to buy things I did not need and forget the things I did. Not only were all the spaces taken, someone parked their gigantic Escalade on the line between 2 disabled spaces, taking up both. Wholly irritated because this happens so much, I walked around the car, no placard or disabled plate, cue the fury of a someone who has to deal with this stuff all the time, and cue my petty revenge. So I took a picture and went inside to find a manager. When I found one, I showed her the photo and she rolled her eyes and sighed. Apparently this happens a lot at their location because it's near an affluent town with a lot of very wealthy, very entitled people, and most often it's the owners of huge SUVs and F-150s that park like jerks. She said she would call the cops, so I decided to go back outside and hang out by the doors to watch the show. The manager joined me and we chatted while we waited for the police. The cops arrived and walked around the car, peering through the windows and running the plate. One cop took a little book out and started writing in it. They took some photos and one came over and asked if they would make an announcement in the store to get the driver outside. The manager radioed someone inside and asked them to announce the make and model and plate of the car over the PA system. A few minutes later, she came charging out of the store, middle-aged, well-dressed woman, the common Karen of North America, and already yelling at the police, of course. As soon as she got to her car, one of the cops held up his hand to shut her up and started lecturing her. I was too far away to hear, but she stopped yelling at least. That cop spoke to her for a few minutes and then the other cop with the little book handed her but 2 papers. She looked absolutely apoplectic. The cops came back over and spoke to the manager, telling her they ordered her to move her car and if she didn't or caused problems in the store to call them back and they would tow the car. They told us they gave her 2 tickets for each space at $500 each. Ouch! The manager thanked the police and me and went back inside. The woman stomped around a bit before getting in her car and peeling out. The cops looked at each other, then got in their cars and followed her. Pretty sure she continued to have the day she deserved. Meanwhile, I happily treated myself to some Legos for performing a public service. And the next one is an Am I the A-hole story. My coworker, 55 male, has a sweater that he wears every day at work and leaves in the office overnight. He never takes it home to wash and over the last month it has developed a distinct smell. At first I tried to make innocuous comments to him, "Do you smell something musty?" etc. but he didn't catch on, so last week I said to him, "Hey, that sweater is starting to give a stench. Could you take it home and wash it?" He replied, "Nah, that's not my sweater," and walked away, which effectively ended the conversation. After he left one night, I went to his desk and smelled the sweater and confirmed that nasty stank, and it was so putrid up close. I have no idea how he lives like this, so I took the sweater on my way out and threw it in a dumpster out back. The next day he was looking around for it and asking everyone if they had seen it. I just shrugged and said, "No, have not seen it today," which was technically not a lie. I feel kind of bad, but I cannot live like that. We work in a 7-person office with no HR and our boss is not effective at dealing with issues, so I felt like this was my only option. Am I the a-hole? Clarification, when he said, "That's not my sweater," he was referring to the stink not being his sweater. The sweater was in fact his. He is a bit of an oddball, but I cannot even imagine that he would wear a random stinky sweater that he did not own. And here, Ripe Stars, would you have done something similar if you were in OP's shoes? Either way, let me know whether you think OP is the a-hole here or not. Comment number 1, everyone sucks here. Throwing stuff out that's not yours is crappy, even if your boss is ineffective, and this is something you should have attempted to bring to them. But I also don't know why this guy is wearing a stinky sweater that doesn't belong to him and then is mad when an item that doesn't belong to him is missing. Comment number 2, you're the a-hole, you cannot steal someone's property, period. It may have felt satisfying in the moment, but that's an actual crime. If he finds out it was you and this goes before HR, they are absolutely not gonna accept "I thought it smelled bad" as an excuse. Also, everyone is hung up on the guy saying the sweater was not his, but I think he was saying that the sweater was not causing the stench, not that the sweater did not belong to him. Edit, I see a lot of people suggesting that I had other options and the ideas being brought up are frankly asinine. Just spray some freeze and call it a day. Have you ever sprayed Febreze in a bathroom where someone took a dump? Then you know it just combines with the crap smell and almost gives it a sort of power up. Next, tell HR about it. Well, some people have trouble reading, it seems. I already said it's a small office with no HR and our boss is incapable or unwilling to address situations like this. I did in fact bring it up to him and he said to find a compromise, such as allowing him to wear the sweater 3 days a week. Not a problem solver, this guy. As for the idea of take it home and wash it for him, I don't think this one even warrants a response. I suppose I should ask the rest of the office if they have any laundry for me to take home, so I can do it all at once. Edit number 2, I see many people bringing up the legality of this and the police being called or this going to court. May I remind everyone that we are talking about a sweater? I would love to hear how that 911 call goes. Officer, I need to report a missing sweater. Please send your forensics team out ASAP and track this lunatic down before the sweater thief strikes again. Or God forbid, I get taken to sweater court. I hope the Honorable Judge Cardigan takes pity on me and offers a reduced sentence if I do people's laundry while in prison. Get real, people. Seriously, we are talking about office squabbles, not Grand Theft Sweater, aka GTS. Update. Hey all, before the update I just wanted to apologize for getting so defensive in my original post. I've been feeling really stressed about the situation and I think my guilt expressed itself as anger. Even though I still don't agree with the alternative actions people offered, I should have been more chill about it. So then the update, we have a Monday morning meeting every week. And I had planned to pull my coworker aside at lunch to tell him what happened and explain why I felt it was necessary. At yesterday's meeting, my coworker took the opportunity during other business to bring up his sweater. He said that he felt disrespected, and as multiple people have complained to him about the smell, he has not been able to narrow down his suspect, so he needs a full confession or he'll be taking further measures. I thought about confessing, but to be honest, his eyes had a crazy look and it made me feel unsafe, so I kept my mouth shut. When no one said anything, he stormed out of the office. My boss predictably did nothing. A couple hours later, he returned with a guy who said he was his cousin and a police officer, though he was in normal clothes and had no badge or ID. He said his cousin was gonna be interrogating people individually all day. At this point, my boss finally stepped in and said that was not happening and brought my coworker into his office. I don't know what happened in there, but it got loud towards the end and I did not see him for the rest of the afternoon. I found out the next day that he was fired, not exactly the outcome I wanted, but it does solve my problem. And yeah guys, before we end the video, we will read a funny story from r/malicious compliance. It is titled, "We just followed the rules." Working in IT, me and my friend had a decent gig. Nothing crazy, just coding, fixing bugs, the usual. Our manager? Well, let's call her Karen. She had her rules, sure, but nothing too wild. Until one day, she dropped the new policy. No more working on multiple tasks at once. She said, "Focus on one thing at a time, complete it and then move on." On paper? Well, it made sense. Less context switching, more efficiency. But in reality, absolute nightmare. We tried to explain. Hey, sometimes we need to switch while waiting on approvals or testing. She shut us down though and said, "No, stick to the task, no exception." Okay then, so a week in, tickets piled up, we were stuck waiting on feedback with nothing to do, customers got mad, deadlines were slipped, we tried again and said, "Look, this is not working, Karen. You're just not adapting," she snapped. So we adapted by doing exactly what she wanted. No multitasking, if we hit a block we sat there, no side tasks, no quick fixes, just waiting. Then the backlog exploded, managers higher up noticed and clients complained. One day, Karen got called into a meeting, she came back looking different. Next morning, email from HR. Karen was out. New manager came in, first thing he said, "Hey, so you guys work how you used to, yeah?" Yeah, we do. And yeah guys, please check out my playlist if you cannot get enough of my videos and I will see you again tomorrow.